Are there any physics nerds out there? I'm sure you guys know. There's Newton's third law of physics. It says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, that still holds true in accounting. As you've figured out, we have operating and non-operating just about everything. They are the yin and yangs of the accounting world. With that in mind, let's look a little bit more into non-operating expenses or costs. As we know, a lot of business analysts just look at operating everything pretty much, including operating costs. And so if managers know this, because a lot of managers are actually ex-business analysts some way, somehow, they might try to hide some things in non-operating costs. For example, if I know I just hadn't do that good this year on my cost side of things, I might say, well, you know what? This is usually an operating cost, but this time I think I'm gonna actually move that over to the non-operating side of things, just so that we look a little bit better in our operating profit. Remember, profit is sales minus costs. So if your costs get smaller, you have bigger profits. So with that in mind, if we dive a little bit into non-operating costs, we can find out what truly should be there and what truly shouldn't be there. Because the rule that it's just everything that runs a company is an operating cost is kind of vague and a little bit hard to understand if you're looking at brand new companies every day. Typical non-operating expenses are things like interest expense, what you might pay on a loan, or a lawsuit settlement, or restructuring expenses, or actually writing off inventory. Now remember, if you write off inventory, it means that you can't sell it. Now, not selling inventory sounds kind of operational in nature, doesn't it? So really, should it be a non-operating expense? Some companies think so, and some companies don't think so. Maybe it just happens to happen one time. Let's say that you happen to sell a lot of bananas and you're a huge banana maker and that's like your go-to operations. And then you got hit by a hurricane. That hurricane really ruined a lot of bananas, so you have to write those off. That's probably gonna be okay. But let's say that you just sold a lot of bananas that you knew weren't gonna get purchased, and then the grocery stores sold them back to you because they're like, hey, no one bought these. Writing those off are probably going to be more of an operational expense than it would be a non-operational expense. And it might sound kind of nitty-gritty details on what's the difference there. It does matter. You see, writing off a bunch of bananas could make you profitable or not profitable in 1 year. So you always have to keep that in mind. That non-operational expenses should really be kind of things that do not impact the business and do not come from good or bad business decisions by management. That's probably the best way to look at it. Is did the management of this business have influence on what happened? For even the hurricane example on the bananas, if they knew the hurricane was coming and they didn't protect any of their bananas, that might be on them. If the hurricane popped out of nowhere, just destroyed a ton of bananas, that's probably gonna be a non-operating cost. But the difference, while it's small, is very important to analysts and management all across the business world. All in all, there's no hard and fast rule about what's operating versus non-operating. You have to understand that management has a big say in where they categorize costs. When you analyze companies, if you see the same kind of non-operating costs popping up, such as restructuring costs that change the way the business operates, or acquisition costs that occur over and over and over again, you might start saying, hey, for my analysts, I'm not going to move that into the operating category because I think that's more part of their business operations than it is not. And that's fine. That's a great thing about analyzing a company is you can have your own way of doing it as long as you follow the normal kind of core ideas that we're going to cover in these courses.